From hot shots to flashlight by Firepower X, here you can find the industrial strength tools you need to dominate your personal and professional wellness as a firefighter. My name is Jess. I'm your host. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce today's special guest, Mr. Todd Brown. He spent 13 years in various first responder roles, about 10 of those years as a paramedic firefighter with West Metro Fire Rescue here in Colorado. And Todd retired early from the fire service to address his own mental health and now advocates for mental health support in fire and EMS. Welcome, Todd. Thanks for coming on the show today and talking to us.
Thank you very much. That summed it up. So we're done, right?
But you're so much more than that. You do so many other things behind the scenes. But I always like to start with people's origin stories. How did fire and EMS get its claws into you?
Oh my gosh. It's kind of a strange story, I think. I
Mm,
was going to college in Durango, a
mhm.
small mountain town here in Colorado. Some friends and I decided we wanted to learn how to rock climb. We could have taken a gym class through college, learned how to do it that way, and actually gotten college credit for it. We thought it would be a better idea to learn from the people who rescue the people who don't learn how to do it right. So we joined the county search and rescue team. 3 months after that, we ran our first call, a commuter plane crash with 9 fatalities in the mountains outside of Durango. So that was my very first call. My two friends who joined with me, they went the other direction, never did anything more with fire and EMS. I went the other way and jumped in full force, I guess.
Wow, that's a pretty big call to start with.
Yeah. Yeah. So needless to say, I was not well prepared.
So did you continue on and get all your high angle rescue training and ropes and all that fun stuff?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was my sophomore year of college. By my senior year, I was one of the officers on the search and rescue team, helping train other people doing the high angle rescue. I'd also joined the volunteer fire department down there. Graduated college, came back to Denver with my bright new shiny business degree and couldn't find a business job. So I got a part-time job with a small ambulance service here in Golden. That eventually became full-time, went to paramedic school, tested with West Metro, and
Mhm.
there you go.
And the rest is history. How did being a first responder help you with being an entrepreneur? Because that is another side you haven't really mentioned or revealed yet, but I'm revealing it right now. So what skills carried over for you?
Quick decision making, I think. As a first responder, obviously you're walking into stuff, you have no idea what you're walking into, and
Mhm.
you got to make some quick decisions. Being an entrepreneur is similar. You don't
Mhm.
know what the next problem's going to be, but you got to figure it out pretty darn quick.
There is a lot of firefighting involved in entrepreneurship. It's
Perfectly stated.
shocking. I learned that myself. And let's start to peel back the layers of the onion with mental health and why
Sure.
it's important to you.
Well, I got started in all of this in the late 80s, worked through the 90s, retired in 2000. At that time, the culture was suck it up and get back to work. There was no mental health support. And getting into it, not knowing what I was really getting into, not really getting into it to get into it, if that makes sense, then being thrown into the shit right off the bat, it took an immediate toll. I didn't realize it for years and years. So it would have been helpful to have more support. They did have a debrief for us after that plane crash, but it was pretty worthless. There were maybe 25 of us that worked at the plane and probably 100 people at the debrief. So it was not beneficial. That was the only mental health support I ever had during my career was that one debrief.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. When you look back and you say that first call was really pivotal, how do you know that in hindsight? What signs did you see afterwards that kind of started the dominoes falling?
Well, in hindsight, I had immediate symptoms of PTSD,
Mhm.
nightmares, flashbacks. Immediately after that call, got back to my apartment, tried to go to sleep, and the heater would kick on, and it sounded like the heavy machinery and extrication equipment running at the crash site. So I kept hearing these machines. Then I'd smell the aviation fuel laying in my bed in my apartment,
Mhm.
20 miles from where it happened. It was pretty immediate, but of course, I had no idea what was going on. I did meet with my intro to psychology professor, and he basically said, what you're experiencing is normal. Don't worry about it. Eventually, it'll go away. So I'm still hoping that all that's going to go away 30
Yeah.
something years later.
Is it? Has it?
That was January of 88. And yeah, I don't smell the jet fuel or hear the machinery anymore, but that certainly does leave an imprint. To this day, I have a hard time flying. There's usually an airport bar shortly
Mhm.
after security where I spend a little bit of time before I get on the plane these days.
That is one way to deal with it. What other kind of signs and symptoms can you now look back on and say, I should have done something about that sooner?
Absolutely. Towards the very end of my career, sleep was a huge problem, was not sleeping much at all. And I was drinking way too much. I somehow became a red wine guy and
Mhm.
was drinking at least a bottle, if not two bottles of red wine most nights. Then, of course, red wine causes migraines, stress causes migraines, flashing lights in the middle of the night causes migraines. So I
Mhm.
was constantly hungover and with a migraine, trying to do my job, not sleeping well, irritable, you name it.
Mhm. That would definitely interrupt quality of life.
Sure.
I know that writing was something that you did as a way to just share your experience during your career. Is that correct?
Mostly correct. Yes. It was after my career that I got into writing. Geez, I think it was 11 or 12 years after I left before I actually found a therapist to work with. It was when I first started working with her that I had this overwhelming urge to write. So I actually started a blog and would post. I would see her every Friday night, Friday evening, go home, dinner with the family, put the kids to bed, and then I'd sit and I guess journal, write my blog posts.
What was the theme of the blog?
Oh my gosh, the overall theme is mental health in first responders, but
Mhm.
it was everything from just sharing articles about mental health to me describing an anxiety attack that I had or reliving a horrible call that I ran.
Did that help you writing about it?
It did. It helped a lot. I think the actual therapy and EMDR, oh my gosh, what a game changer EMDR was. But yeah, the writing helped tremendously. If nothing else, it just kind of gave me a voice where it's hard to talk about this stuff, certainly when you're first figuring it out and trying to understand it. So to be able to write about it, to be able to talk about it to nobody really was tremendously helpful. I got some really good feedback from people reading the blog. A nice bonus to actually hear that people were reading it and getting something out of it.
Were they other first responders or like friends and
Yeah,
family? Who was your audience?
it was mostly first responders that were reaching out to me and commenting on the blogs.
Nice. What were the messages they were sending you?
For the most part, it was thank you for sharing. I kind of feel the same way. It's hard to talk about this stuff. Thank you for bringing it up.
Nice. That must have been very validating, I'm sure, to keep sharing.
Absolutely.
Did you also have a private journal at that time? Were you also saving the heavy stuff for behind
No, it
closed
was
doors?
whatever came through my brain went into the blog. I did try to keep it not graphic in case non-first responders did happen to find it. I didn't want to put that out there, but otherwise, whatever came to mind went in the blog.
And is journaling or writing still something you do now? The blog has wrapped up, right?
Well, it's still out there. I have not actively posted on it in several years. I did have an idea back after several blog posts, maybe even after a couple of years of doing it. I think I did it pretty regularly for 4 or 5 years. I had an idea to turn that blog into a book, use those blog posts to tell my mental health story. I've started working on that. I'm very early into the process, but that's what's next, I think.
And do you do any other speaking or connecting with first responders to share your experience?
I try to. I've worked with a couple of different nonprofit groups here in Denver to speak with other first responders as, I guess, kind of a peer support kind of role. My basic message is get mental health help before you need mental health help. I've talked with several guys who have shared my story, and they're like, oh, well, shoot, it's great to know that there's resources out there if I ever need it. And my response is, you need it.
Mhm.
Whether you believe it or not, you need it. So get it now, get ahead of it, stay ahead of it.
And was there any precipitating event when you realized you needed it? What broke the camel's back? You mentioned the wine and the migraines, but like usually I have found people have one really big incident that kind of is like, okay, I have to change. I have to do something different. I have to deal with this. Was there
Sure.
something like that for you?
Yeah. So obviously, there were several calls that kind of led up to my decision to get out of the business, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're asking a little bit more beyond that because at that time, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I could not do the job anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
literally woke up one morning and went, I can't do it. I'm done. I need to move on. But at that point, I didn't realize there was a problem. It was another probably 2 years later. My daughter was 6 months old ish. And I was up with her in the middle of the night, normal feeding, sitting in the living room. At the time, we lived in the mountains, had a gorgeous view out into the trees. Sitting with her, she fell back to sleep in my arms, and I could not put her back to bed. I just knew if I put her down, something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I knew nothing was actually going to happen, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what was in my head. And I walked around the house with her for 2 or 3 hours. That was when I went, okay, this is not good. And
Yeah.
I started looking for help, and it was another 10 years before I found somebody.
Wow. That's a big gap, Todd.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a rough 10 years.
How did you
Um,
manage in that 10 years? What did you use to?
uh, my wife, a lot. She was a tremendous help and support. I think once I actually realized there was a problem and I needed to do something about it, it was a little bit easier to deal with it on my own with the help of my wife. But certainly I needed more than that. At that time, that was 2002, there was still no recognition that first responders could have PTSD. The research that I was doing online told me that that's what was going on. And even then, I was still like, no, that's for combat veterans. I don't get PTSD. First responders don't get PTSD. But I knew I needed something. And I reached out to, I don't know, probably at least 20, maybe 30 different mental health professionals and explained what was going on. Every one of them said, yep, sorry, I can't help you.
That's to me feels almost unheard of 23 years later. Most career fire departments, paid fire departments have EAP and have these partnerships now with clinicians. I can't even imagine having to do that legwork on your own. So, what did that search turn up for you?
I did eventually find a very sweet lady who agreed to talk to me. She made it clear that this was not her area of expertise and she wasn't sure what she could do for me, but she agreed to meet with me. I spent an hour with her, not to take away from her skills as a professional, but she did an awful lot more talking than I did. Her basic message was when you have a flashback, just think of something different. Which, I mean, on the surface, that sounds great, but it's not that simple. Yes, that is, as you're working through an anxiety attack or a flashback, that's what you're trying to do is get beyond that and think of something different. But it's not like flipping a switch and all of a sudden you can think about something different. You got to work through it. So she was not very helpful, unfortunately.
You had mentioned EMDR being really helpful, the support of your wife. What other modalities did you try that turned out to be a winner, winner, chicken dinner for you?
Well, talk therapy, of course, has been very helpful. I've been in and out of regular therapy, a few different therapists over the last 10 or 15 years. Tremendously helpful. I've tried some other stuff. What is it? The neurofeedback
Mhm.
stuff didn't do a thing for me. Tried a couple of different versions of it and saw no effect at all. So for me, EMDR and talk therapy are the two game changers in my world.
What is it about talk therapy that really hits it on the nose for you?
It's along the same lines as the journaling. It's a way to get it out there and share it with somebody who can physically demonstrate to you that you're not actually crazy. They
Mm,
understand what's going on and is helpful just to be able to talk about it. Because the culture was always you don't talk about it, you just move on, suck it up, get back to work. And then so much of it you don't want to share with friends and family because they're not prepared for it. You don't want to put that burden on them as well. So you end up holding a lot of it in to be able to actually talk to a therapist, somebody who understands your world, what you're going through,
mhm.
just to get it out there is tremendously helpful.
Did you incorporate any diet or exercise or into all of this?
No, I need to. That's part of my next steps too. I mean, I've stayed physically active. I go to the gym a few times a week, play not as much golf as I'd like, play softball, active, but yeah, my diet certainly could be better. I'm working on that. That's my next form of therapy, I guess, is a better diet.
I was just curious. I know for some people that really augments other things that they're doing. What's really important for fire and EMS folks to know about mental health from your perspective? What do you really want them to hear today?
I think the most important message I can convey is you most likely are going to have some sort of mental health issues if you're in this career for more than a year or two. You will have some effects. It changes you, it just does. Get mental health help early. Find
Mhm,
a good therapist that you can work with. Even if you don't think you need it, go a couple times a year, just get it off your chest. Stay on top of your mental health because it very well could catch up to you.
mhm. Let's dive into your support system. How has your wife through this journey with you? How has she changed or what insights has she had on this whole process as being secondary to what you're experiencing?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I probably should talk to her more about what she's gone through. She's just been so very understanding. When I came to her and said, I can't do this anymore. There was never a, well, what are you going to do? How are
Mhm,
we going to survive? It was, if you need to leave, leave. The anxiety attacks that I had there for 10 years till I actually found good therapy sometimes had to be scary for her because they freaked the hell out of me. But she was able to sit with me and work through it with me. Made all the difference.
yeah, it's nice to have somebody by your side who does that. How about your family? I know you mentioned kids earlier, your daughter. How have they woven into this story with you?
I don't know how much I understand their perspective on it.
Mm,
Obviously, they saw me go through some really dark times. They were there for some of the anxiety attacks, but we've never really talked about it. I remember when I first started therapy, when I first found a really good therapist and started working through stuff, I think she was 11 or 12 at the time. And basically, we were telling her, Dad's going to the doctor every Friday. And
mm,
of course, there was questions about it. We told her it wasn't a normal doctor, like going for your physical. And at one point, I asked her if she wanted to know more about why I'm seeing this doctor every week. And she said, No, I know enough. That was really the
wow.
only time we've talked about it. Both my kids have unfortunately been the recipients of some anger and depression. And I'm talking verbal anger, overreaction to stuff, nothing physical. I never once hit my kids or even made them feel like I would, but I did overreact a few times and raised my voice way more than it needed to be raised
Mm.
for little stuff. Maybe at some point those conversations will happen and I will understand their perspective on it and maybe help them understand where I was too.
Being retired from the fire service now and having the time and space to breathe a little bit and being in a totally different industry, how has this all changed you as a
Oh,
person?
wow, that's a great question. Certainly, in some ways, it's made me much more cynical. Of course, anybody who's worked in the fire service, you have a dark sense of humor. That does not go away.
No, it doesn't.
But I also think it's made me certainly stronger, emotionally stronger, even though I'm breaking down talking about it. I think I'm stronger, but also
Mhm.
better at showing my emotions. I feel like I had something else in there, but it went away.
That's okay. I've definitely experienced that too, looking back at who I was then versus now and having a little more hindsight is always helpful. Do you have strong
Sure.
feelings about break the stigma and it's okay to not be okay? What do you feel about that messaging? Because I know how I feel. I think my viewers know how I feel, but I'd be curious to hear your opinions.
Things have improved dramatically since my time, but I still think that there's a long ways to go. I think there is still a stigma around mental health and first responders. I think a lot of guys are still afraid to bring it up, afraid to talk about it. I think agencies are putting forward a really good face in a lot of cases, but maybe behind the scenes, it's not quite as supportive as they want it to be, or they try to make it appear to be.
Hmm.
I definitely think there's room for improvement, but it is way better than it was 20 years ago.
Yes, definitely has way more visibility than it did
Yes.
20 years ago. Have you been in a volunteer capacity, Todd?
Yeah, when I was still in college, the search and rescue team was volunteer. I was also on a volunteer fire department down there as well. Also volunteered for a couple of years with Flight for Life here in Denver too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know Flight for Life had volunteers.
It was a long time ago. For years, they just flew with one flight nurse, and they would often, on scene, on the more critical patients, they would just grab hands from on scene and just pull somebody in and take them with them just to have extra help. They started looking into if it would make sense to have a second medical person on the helicopters. And they didn't think it made sense to have a second flight nurse, but they thought maybe a paramedic with field experience would make sense. So they brought in a group of, I think there were 8 or 10 of us that volunteered for a couple of years just to give them some data and experience on how it would work to have that second, or actually that third crew member, two medical people and the pilot. I don't know if you were here at the time, but there was a crash. Flight for Life had a crash. I think it was in 95 or 96. I really should be able to remember that because I was still with them at the time.
Hmm.
And immediately after that, they stopped the volunteer program and did go to a full paid flight paramedic system after that. They decided for insurance reasons it probably wasn't a good idea to have volunteers anymore. What a fantastic experience. That was so much fun.
I'm amazed that considering the initial trauma with the plane crash that you opted to willingly get into a helicopter.
Oh, what's crazy, to this day, I will step on a helicopter anytime, any day, anywhere. Yeah, I gotta work up to getting onto a plane.
The commercial planes are the problematic, huh?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
do you think that there's a difference in mental health challenges between volunteer fire service versus career? Or do you think they're
Um,
equally challenged?
I would say the challenges are the same, but yeah, I think how they're handled are different. I wasn't with that volunteer fire department long enough to really have a whole lot of experience. I was with them, I think, about 2 years and didn't do a whole lot of really nasty stuff. Ran a few, but nothing really significant. I think the difference is a volunteer, for the most part, you run the call and then you go back home. You don't go back to the station. So even if you do go back to the station and you suck it up and get back to work, you're still with that same crew who is also there with you. And in some way or another, you're sort of debriefing about it, even if it's just the dark humor, laughing about whatever happened to this poor person that you just worked on for the last hour and a half. Whereas a volunteer going back home, maybe they got up in the middle of dinner to go run this horrible call. They go back and finish dinner with their family, and they don't
Mhm.
have that ability to darkly debrief with the crew. So I think they've probably got some significant challenges as well.
I've heard it both ways that the volunteers, they also have their probationary members or their junior members who may not even be 18. rolling up on gnarly stuff.
Yeah,
But then if they are kind of struggling with anything, they can opt out of responding for a few months. I need to take care of this. So,
sure.
are there nuggets of your story that we haven't touched on yet?
I think I'll just go back to you got to prepare for it before you need it because it adds up. Cumulative trauma is a thing. One bad call may or may not affect you for the rest of your life, but one bad call and then the second bad call and then the 18th bad call and then the 50th, it all adds up. Just get ahead of it, stay on top of it.
Spoken by someone with the wisdom to hold out for 10 years.
Right.
Don't make the same mistakes, kids, as we did, right?
Exactly. Do as I say, not as I did.
Exactly. Do you miss the fire service at all? You miss any aspects of it?
I do, yes. Certainly, I miss the camaraderie. I miss sitting around the kitchen table and bullshitting with the crews. For a long time, I didn't really even miss that much. I was so fried. I was in such a bad place that I really wanted nothing to do with it. I had very little interaction with any of the guys for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But after I got into therapy 10 years later, I got my shit together and started running into some of the guys and the warm reception I got. The brotherhood is not a joke. It's for real. I was shocked at some of these people I hadn't seen in 10, 15, dropping everything to give me a big hug and ask how I'm doing. So as I've got my mental health back on track, yeah, I do miss it. I don't miss the EMS stuff anymore. That's what really wore me out. But man, I miss driving big trucks really fast and I miss running into a fire and all that exciting stuff.
Yeah, the fun bits.
Yeah, exactly.
One more dark, deep question. What calls really bothered you the most? Like you mentioned EMS, you said that's the part you don't miss now, but
Yes. Oddly enough, that's how I got into the whole thing was I started in the EMS side of it. I ran a lot of kids, a lot of pediatrics, and those I think really took a toll on me. That was even before I was married with kids. I don't know if I ran any more than any other paramedic who did it for 10 plus years. Some of the guys I worked with and knew my history felt like I did run more kids than most.
okay.
I don't know. I think I ran more than anybody else did, but I ran more than I could handle without the support to help me get through it.
Mm-hmm. As we wrap the conversation up today, I always like to leave our viewers with a tool or resource so they can continue their knowledge base from today's conversation. What would you recommend for us, Todd?
There's two organizations based here in Denver that I think are fantastic. One of them is Foundation 1023. They have a network of mental health care providers. In most cases, they're able to even provide a couple of initial visits for free to get you up and running, get you that support system started. The other one, it's called Restoration Ranch, Colorado. It's a nonprofit here. The foundation owns 40 something acre ranch up in the mountains west of Denver. It's a place for first responders and their families to just go disconnect, recharge, get away from everything for a couple of days. There's no cost, there's no gimmicks, no tricks, no you don't have to meet with a therapist, there's no group therapy. You literally just go to this property in the mountains and chill. It's an amazing thing.
Is it like a retreat, or do you go for a weekend while they're having a retreat, or can you just go spend a couple weeks?
Well, certainly you have to schedule it ahead of time, but yeah, you can go stay for 2 days and there's nobody else there. There are caretakers that live on the property, but they leave you alone. You literally just go up there, you by yourself or you and your family, and enjoy the property by yourself.
Great. It sounds like a lovely place. Where exactly in the mountains is it? What town is it closest to?
It is closest to Golden,
Oh,
15, 20 minutes west of Golden.
okay. That's an easy drive for
Yeah,
anyone
it is.
anyone close
Yeah.
to Denver.
A short drive, but a million miles away, as they say.
Awesome. Is spending time in nature something that you've added to your repertoire of mental health supports?
I need to get back to that. I used to, if I wasn't working, I was mountain biking or skiing or
Mhm.
camping or all of the above. And as I've gotten older, I don't do as much of that as I used to, but that is something that's been on my mind. I need to get back out into the woods more.
Well, what is filling your cup right now, Todd?
Well, I'm on the advisory board for Restoration Ranch. I enjoy that. That helps me a lot knowing that I'm helping others in
Hmm?
the same situation. I try to play golf a couple times a month. That's a good stress relief. If you can not worry about your score, it's an excuse to be outside, moving around, getting a little bit of exercise, maybe having a beer and a cigar.
Hmm.
I generally don't really even pay attention to my score. I just go play.
Nice. Yes, Denver does have some beautiful golf courses. So,
Yes, they do.
do you have a favorite? What's your favorite golf course in Denver?
Oh, my favorite is Arrowhead in
Ah,
Roxborough Park. It is just spectacular. A little closer to home, I like Fossil Trace out in Golden.
oh, that's beautiful too. Yes.
Yeah,
Those are,
awesome
yeah, those are
courses.
good ones. Great. Any closing thoughts? Anything we didn't touch on today that you want to talk about before we turn the cameras off?
I can't think of anything. Thank you so much for what you do and allowing me to be a part of it. This is certainly a message that means a lot to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for coming on the show today and your vulnerability and just opening up and being totally transparent with us. We appreciate that. And thank you, viewers. If you're still watching, you're amazing. We appreciate you. And I will put Todd's recommendations in the show notes today with the links. You can click through and check them out. And if you have any follow up feedback for me, my door is always open to you after every episode. Reach out to me at info@firepowerx.com with questions, concerns, anything you want to say after this episode. And guys, we will see you in the next webinar. Bye for now.